Everyone wants people to listen to them, to respect them, to take them seriously. And so we try to be good, thinking that goodness earns respect. But one day it suddenly hits you, the ones who were the most good were used the most. So is being good actually the biggest weakness? And if it is, every time you tried to earn respect by being good, did they really take you seriously? And this didn't just happen to you, it's a pattern. The people who are actually powerful are playing a completely different game. Think about it, your reputation. The one you didn't build yourself, someone else is building it. In your place. About you. Then there's something else, we think that talking more makes people take us seriously. But the ones who are truly taken seriously say very little. And behind all of this there's one more layer, powerful people never reveal their intentions. Never. And that's exactly why you can never read them. And there's one key to understanding all of this, as a bonus, and if it clicks, all the other laws will fall into place on their own. Here at Book Echo English, we don't just summarize books, we uncover what's hidden between the lines. If you want insights like this every day, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what you find here, you won't find anywhere else. Think about this, you once put so much effort into something that you surprised even yourself. The result was outstanding. But when it was time for recognition, it went to someone else. Or maybe you were recognized, but after that, things got strange. People pulled back a little. Opportunities started to dry up. You probably wondered, why did this happen? Robert Greene says, it was no accident. Every environment has an unwritten rule. Whether it's an office, a home, or a social circle, wherever someone sits above you, they never want the person below them to shine brighter. This isn't a flaw, it's human nature. And whoever doesn't understand this ends up making enemies without even realizing it. There's a fascinating example from history, Nicolas Fouquet. He was the finance minister of France. During the reign of King Louis XIV. Fouquet was so ambitious that he threw a party, so grand, so spectacular, that the king himself looked dim by comparison. Fouquet thought, the king will be impressed. But the opposite happened. Just a few weeks after that party, Fouquet was arrested. In prison. For the rest of his life. Simply because he outshone the king. This might sound extreme. But the same thing happens today, the method has just changed. Your boss rejected your idea, not just because the idea was bad. But because it wasn't their idea. Someone close to you changed the subject instead of genuinely celebrating your success, because your win was reminding them of their own shortcomings. So this doesn't mean you stop working. Or hide your abilities. Greene says, make your master look good. Make your brilliance a part of their success. When your boss wins and your hand is in it, you become an asset, not a threat. This isn't manipulation, it's wisdom. This is exactly what truly powerful people do. They prove their abilities not through noise, but through results. And they always present those results in a way that gives the person above them credit too. But here's an interesting thing, this law isn't just about bosses and employees. It applies to every relationship where there's a power dynamic. Friendships, family, partnerships, everywhere. And the people who understand this, they never needlessly clash with someone else's ego. They put their energy into places where they're actually allowed to grow. But a question comes up here, if you always put someone else first, when do you get to move forward yourself? The answer is in the next law, and it just might surprise you. We often think that sharing our plans will make people take us seriously. That if we tell others what we're about to do, they'll help us. They'll support us. But Greene says, that's the biggest mistake. When you reveal your intentions, you give others the chance to prepare. They can plan against you. They can stop you. Or they can take your idea and make it their own. And this isn't just about enemies, it happens with friends too. Think about it, how many times have you excitedly shared your plan with someone? And they raised so many questions, pointed out so many problems, that your own confidence cracked. And you never even started. It didn't happen on purpose. But it happened. Greene makes another interesting point: people who are actually powerful always keep a decoy. Meaning a fake intention. They show people one thing, and do something else entirely. Take the historical example of Otto von Bismarck. He was the Chancellor of Prussia. He united all of Germany, but no one ever knew what his real plan was. He always appeared to be compromising. But every single time, the result came out in his favor. His power wasn't in his army. His power was in his unpredictability. And that's just as true today. People who share everything, become predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. But this doesn't mean you lie to everyone. Or carry suspicion into every relationship. Greene says, simply, don't always show your cards. It's not necessary to share everything. Staying quiet isn't weakness, it's strategy. In fact, people who speak less and reveal less, come across as more mysterious. And mystery automatically draws respect. You may have noticed, people who post everything on social media, who announce every plan, their words carry less weight. But those who quietly do the work and let the results speak, people take them seriously. That's not a coincidence. But here's an interesting twist: staying quiet isn't enough on its own. If you're only silent and doing nothing, people will ignore you. Real power comes when you speak less, but when you do speak, every word carries weight. And that's exactly what the next law is built on. Picture this experiment: there are two people. One speaks in every meeting. Gives an opinion on every topic. Answers every question immediately. The other stays quiet. Listens carefully. And when he speaks, it's just 1 or 2 lines. Now think, who does the room take more seriously? Most people would say, the first one. Because he's more active. More involved. But Greene says, that thinking is exactly wrong. When you talk more, you expose more. Your insecurities come to the surface. Your limits show. You contradict yourself. And people read you easily. But the one who speaks less, builds an aura. People make assumptions about him. And those assumptions are often more powerful than reality. There's an interesting detail about Louis XIV, he deliberately spoke very little. When someone came to him with a request, he would simply say, "Je verrai," meaning, I will see. That's it. No explanation. No reason. And that one line kept him the most powerful man in the room. Because when you don't explain yourself, the other person becomes uncomfortable. They start constructing answers in their own head. And in that process, power automatically shifts to you. This is psychology. And it works. You've probably noticed this yourself: when you talk too much with someone, explain everything, they start taking you a little less seriously. But when you stay a bit reserved, that same person starts thinking about you more. But here's a common mistake people make. They think that speaking less means being arrogant. Or rude. Or going silent on everything. That's wrong. Greene says, speaking less means being intentional. Deliberately choosing every word. When you speak, speak with purpose. When there's nothing to say, be comfortable in that silence. And that silence, it isn't discomfort. It's confidence. In fact, people who fear silence, speak just to fill it. And people who are comfortable in silence, speak only when it's necessary. That's the difference between an average person and a genuinely powerful one. But one question: if you speak less, if you're less visible, won't people simply forget you? That fear is valid. And the answer is in the next law, one that just might completely change the way you think. We all mistake availability for loyalty. We think, the more available I am, the more people will value me. The faster I reply, the more present I am everywhere, the more important I'll seem. But the opposite happens. The one who is always available loses value. Slowly. So slowly that you don't even notice. Greene says, value and availability have a simple relationship. What is always within reach doesn't feel precious. And what is hard to reach, is treasured. This is economics. Scarcity creates value. And the same applies to human psychology. Dejan Stoyanovich once said, the most confused you will ever get is when you try to convince your heart and your mind to agree on something they both don't fully believe in. But in the context of power, there's another confusion: we believe that presence earns respect. When often, it's absence that does. Think about someone who gradually became less present in your life. Maybe a friend. A colleague. Someone close to you. When they were always around, you didn't notice them. But when they pulled back, you started thinking about them. Their words came back to you. Their absence began to feel real. That's exactly Greene's point. When you're always available, people start taking you for granted. Your presence becomes normal. But when you're strategically absent, people's minds automatically start thinking about you. And what lives in the mind, feels valuable. But there's an important distinction here. Absence doesn't mean disappearing. Or ignoring people. Greene says, it has to be calculated. It has to be purposeful. For example, it's not necessary to reply to every message immediately. It's not necessary to show up at every gathering. It's not necessary to share your opinion in every conversation. Sometimes taking one step back makes you more visible. It's a paradox. But it works. And this isn't just true in personal relationships, it's equally true in professional life. The employee who goes to the boss for every little thing seems dependent. But the one who does their work, stays low-key, and delivers results, seems indispensable. In fact, people seek that person out. They ask for their opinion. They take them seriously. But here's a question: if you're less visible, speak less, stay absent, what will people think of you? What kind of image will you build? And that's exactly where the next law comes in, possibly the most underrated one of all. Think about this: you're not in the room. But people are talking about you. What are they saying? Most people never seriously think about this question. They believe their work will speak for itself. Their effort will show. People will figure it out on their own. But Greene says, that is the most dangerous assumption you can make. Your reputation is not what you think you are. Your reputation is what people think you are. And those two things are often very different. And the most important point: if you don't build your own reputation, someone else will. In your place. About you. And that version may not be the one you want. There's an interesting example from history: Julius Caesar. He wasn't just a great general. He was a master image builder. He deliberately spread his own stories. He presented his victories in a way that made his name a legend in Rome, before he was actually powerful. His reputation opened paths for him. Opened doors. He got opportunities that no one else could get. That wasn't manipulation. That was strategy. And the same thing happens today. You've probably noticed, some people do average work, but are praised everywhere. And some people do outstanding work, but nobody even knows who they are. The difference isn't talent. The difference is reputation management. Greene says, treat your reputation like an asset. Build it. Protect it. And if someone tries to damage it, respond immediately. But there's a nuance here. Reputation isn't just about creating a good image. It's about what one thing you're known for. One clear, strong identity. Those who try to be good at everything, are memorable for nothing. But those who are exceptionally known for one thing, permanently occupy people's minds. And that is the foundation of long-term power. But one more interesting point: reputation builds fastest when people believe in you. Not just in your work, in you. In your vision. In your words. And how does that belief get built? That's exactly what the next law is built on, and it may be the most psychologically deep law in this entire book. One question: have you ever followed someone who wasn't smarter than you? Wasn't more capable than you? But still, there was something in the way they spoke that pulled you in. And you probably asked yourself, why? Greene says, the answer isn't in your weakness. It's in human nature. Every person carries a deep need to believe. In something. In an idea. In another person. We all live in a world that is confusing, uncertain, and often feels unfair. And in that uncertainty, the person who offers a clear vision, a strong narrative, people are automatically drawn toward them. This isn't weakness. This is biology. The most powerful leaders in history weren't the smartest ones. They were the ones who gave people a dream. A purpose. A feeling that, yes, this is the truth. This is the way. And people followed. But here Greene states an uncomfortable truth. He says, even if you genuinely want to help people, you must understand that people are not convinced by facts, they're convinced by feelings. Not by logic, but by narrative. You've probably experienced this yourself. You once made a very logical argument. Every fact was right. Every number was right. But the other person still wasn't convinced. And then someone told a simple story, and you understood immediately. You connected immediately. That's the difference between facts and belief. Greene says, people who hold power understand this psychology. They don't give people information, they give people a feeling. A sense of belonging. A sense of purpose. And that feeling is the most powerful currency there is. But there's an important warning here. This law is a double-edged sword. Understanding it is essential, so you can use it. But even more essential is being able to recognize it. Because the people who understand it also use it on others. And if you can't recognize it, you become part of someone else's narrative. Without even knowing it. In fact, this is exactly where most people get trapped. They believe, but they never stop to see who they're believing in, and why. But there's one more interesting angle to this law, and that's honesty. Because sometimes the most powerful move is to tell the truth. But just a little. Strategically. And that's exactly what the next law is. We've heard one thing since childhood, always tell the truth. And that's not wrong. But Greene makes an uncomfortable observation. He says, telling the truth and using the truth at the right moment in the right way, these are two different things. Think about it, you've probably dealt with someone you didn't like. Someone you didn't trust. But then suddenly they said something that was completely true. That was about you. That no one else had said. And in that one moment, your guard came down a little. That's exactly what selective honesty does. Greene says, one genuine, unexpected truth can break through anyone's defenses. When you tell someone what they needed to hear but no one else had said, they automatically start to trust you. And that trust is the most valuable thing in any relationship. There's an interesting example from history, Count Cavour. He was a master diplomat from Italy. He always disarmed his opponents with a strategic truth. He would first honestly acknowledge that the other side's position had some merit. This made the opponent relax. And then Cavour would make his real point, which was now far easier to accept. That wasn't manipulation. That was a deep understanding of human psychology. But there's an important distinction here. Selective honesty doesn't mean lying. Or twisting the truth. It means saying the right truth at the right time. Not every truth needs to be said at every moment. You've probably experienced this yourself. You once gave someone honest feedback. But they weren't ready for it. And they didn't accept it, they got defensive instead. But if that same thing had been said at the right moment, when they were receptive, maybe they would have heard it. That's timing. And timing changes everything. Greene says, powerful people know which truth to speak and when. They don't say everything openly. But when they do speak, the impact is maximum. And that impact, it doesn't happen randomly. It's created intentionally. In fact, this is the common thread running through all 7 laws. Whether it's not outshining the master, concealing your intentions, speaking less, staying absent, building your reputation, understanding people's need to believe, or using selective honesty, behind all of it is one single core idea. But what is that core idea? If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of people. We've heard one thing since childhood: always tell the truth. And that's not wrong. But Greene makes an uncomfortable observation. He says, telling the truth and using the truth at the right moment in the right way, these are 2 different things. Think about it, you've probably dealt with someone you didn't like. Someone you didn't trust. But then suddenly they said something that was completely true. That was about you. That no one else had said. And in that one moment, your guard came down a little. That's exactly what selective honesty does. Greene says, one genuine, unexpected truth can break through anyone's defenses. When you tell someone what they needed to hear but no one else had said, they automatically start to trust you. And that trust is the most valuable thing in any relationship. There's an interesting example from history: Count Cavour. He was a master diplomat from Italy. He always disarmed his opponents with a strategic truth. He would first honestly acknowledge that the other side's position had some merit. This made the opponent relax. And then Cavour would make his real point, which was now far easier to accept. That wasn't manipulation. That was a deep understanding of human psychology. But there's an important distinction here. Selective honesty doesn't mean lying. Or twisting the truth. It means saying the right truth at the right time. Not every truth needs to be said at every moment. You've probably experienced this yourself. You once gave someone honest feedback. But they weren't ready for it. And they didn't accept it, they got defensive instead. But if that same thing had been said at the right moment, when they were receptive, maybe they would have heard it. That's timing. And timing changes everything. Greene says, powerful people know which truth to speak and when. They don't say everything openly. But when they do speak, the impact is maximum. And that impact, it doesn't happen randomly. It's created intentionally. In fact, this is the common thread running through all 7 laws. Whether it's not outshining the master, concealing your intentions, speaking less, staying absent, building your reputation, understanding people's need to believe, or using selective honesty, behind all of it is one single core idea. But what is that core idea? If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of people. So throughout this entire book, we saw one thing: power is not a personality trait. It's an understanding. We saw that being good isn't enough if you don't know what's happening around you. We saw that speaking less, being less visible, and concealing your intentions until the right moment, that's not weakness, that's clarity. We saw that reputation, belief, and honesty, these are all tools. And every tool has its right moment. But the biggest takeaway, the one you understood today, is that this game is already being played. The only question now is whether you'll play it consciously, or keep reacting. Just do one thing today, in one conversation, where you'd normally talk too much, pause. Listen. And see what changes. Now one question: if you've understood the game of power, the next question is, which direction do you want to go in that game? And this is where another problem begins. Most people want power, but they don't know what they actually want. Confusion on every decision. Doubt at every turn. And that feeling that even with everything in place, something is still missing. The next video is about exactly that, clarity. A book by Stephen Cesari that shows how confusion isn't an outside problem, it comes from within. And the way to clear it is not what you think. If this channel is genuinely giving you something, then subscribe. Because every video here is a book that pushes you to think differently. This was Book Echo English, where it's not books that are read, but life itself. What you just understood, that feeling will fade in a little while. The video in front of you, click it now. Don't let it stop here.